APLD stock is one of the top companies building data centers for most AI companies today. They are an up and coming growth stock that has seen some surgences recently up into this $15 price point. Now, we've been following them for a while. We've seen volatility really into 2024. We started covering them back here around what was, I guess, around $5 a share. We've noticed some volatility, but really we've been watching this uptrend. Why are we watching them recently? Well, we're going to go over our three-part analysis and exactly what it means for APLD in their recent moves. The first thing we're watching with this company is that they are supplying data centers for some of the top AI companies. They recently signed a $9 billion deal, or if it was a $7 billion deal, now I think it's around $10 billion, something like that, for CoreWeave. And so that's an AI company they're working with. You got their wind turbines along with their solar powered point of generation for their data centers. And then on top of that, we see they are partnered there with Supermicro Computer, which supplies the housing for xAI, Elon's company, and NVIDIA. And then you got NVIDIA, trust them, Dell Technologies, Intel, Hewlett Packard, and the list goes on. So what are we seeing with this company? Well, they recently, again, are building this data center here in North Dakota for CoreWeave. That's going to be at least, it was $7 billion, but they actually since expanded it. So it's actually looking like a couple more billion than that. Their revenue has been increasing year over year. Recent revenue came in 38%, which was down a little bit on the quarterly annual, but year over year, their revenue has been really ramping up recently. Their total balance sheet is also looking good with assets up to nearly $2 billion. And the institutional holdings seem to be increasing with more increased positions and decreased positions from Hood River Capital Management along with BlackRock, Vanguard. You got State Street, and Charles Schwab is also one of the big holders there along with Goldman Sachs. And that's what we're seeing from an institutional perspective. So the market of AI heavily growing due to what? The demand for the workforce to use more of these AI skills. It's going to be like ChatGPT moments that we've seen come out, DeepSeek moments, NVIDIA expanding their data centers. You have this company coming in and saying, hey, we'll construct your data centers, but we'll not only construct your data centers, we will invest in the data centers with you in places that will be not only environmentally friendly, but also maybe even a carbon footprint negative as best they can. So that's something big tech companies that are moving into the United States even more, like Apple investing $500 billion into their own infrastructure factories and data centers, or xAI, or in this case, NVIDIA or CoreWeave. These are companies that are buying into building these data centers, and APLD stands to be one of the companies that's helping them make that happen. So they're up about 4% today. We've been watching them for a while. Again, we got to catch this move here from, it wasn't $3 a share, but we were able to catch them down here around $7 a share. We have a position, a long-term hold with them that's up about 50% in total. And they recently reported earnings came in positive for the revenue there. And you see them start to hold above this $14.50 range. So since they've jumped up above this resistance, you can kind of see this trend playing out, right? So you got this resistance and support here. Let's take a look. There we are, kind of seeing this, and they're kind of trying to break out now above this resistance. Their nearest support level is about $14 a share. They're at $14.60 right now, and they're looking to basically continue some of this momentum up into this range. It's a pretty aggressive approach, but about a $17 price point. Now, a lot of companies right now, if you look at some of the targets for this, have them up around that $18 price point. So with a target around $18, we'd be looking at essentially, let's see what that would be from current prices. We're looking at what would be potentially a 24% increase. Now, they've also made runs up into this $34 price point. We've seen them really take off before, and now they're really starting to actually establish some real world usage, and those deals are coming in. So now that we're in this resistance level and they just broke out, we're going to be watching here around $14 a share. I'm not planning on selling any of our long-term positions, but most likely we're going to watch it around $14 a share, see if it can hold here. The conservative outlook would be a little bit longer time frame. We did have CPI data report come in today. You had inflation just about 0.1% lower than that of, or about, I guess it would be 10% lower, but about 1 decimal point lower than what they expected. I think they expected 3.8. They came in, or 2.8, 3.8. They came in at 3.7, something like that, or a decimal lower. And so you got this, it's good for inflation, maybe. Still not as good as maybe the year over year inflation that we like to see drop, but when it comes to the shorter term, quarter over quarter, a little bit better there than last. And then we see this is the conservative sell down. The conservative sell down on APLD is markets correct, something like this. You see a sell down into that $12 range. They have a lot of momentum right now, though. You can see the financials heating up, right? So annually, they've seen revenue increase. The only problem they have is, they've had some quarters where they've gone really negative on the net income, and their liabilities are a little bit high. I mean, not perfect, but they're up there around 1.2 billion. Kind of would make sense for a company that is building data centers. So that's how the balance sheet looks, and that's how the income statement looks. And when we look at some of the financials, so again, we went through some of the news. We got to go into some of the financials, the institutional holdings. And then on the chart, again, $14 support right now. Trying to make that run up into this 1550, which would be about a 12% increase somewhere in here, or even that $18 range, which would be, much further up there. Trying to make that $15.50 range. So somewhere in that 10%, 10 to 12% range would be where they're looking to get to right now. Now, at market open, we have seen some increased volatility than we normally do. I think there was some manipulation pre-market. Gotta check this one. Kind of see some big consolidations. This is just in the last few days. You see consolidation, finding support. Today they spiked big right here around market open and then sold off. And now we see them start to recover and actually push up more bullish. So again, kind of looking for this smaller move to take place too. Just kind of up here in this $15 range. That's a little 5% swing, but they got a support there at $14. Very well positioned to potentially use that previous resistance as a support, as you see them doing that. And they just broke above this EMA, this SMA, as the MACD and RSI are kind of holding steady there in the middle. So still kind of awaiting some direction here over the last week. It's been kind of consolidating from left to right here. We're looking for them to maybe establish this previous resistance as a support, which would be kind of exactly what it does when it's bullish. A lot of times when we're in a bullish environment, those previous resistance levels will act as a support, and vice versa. In a bearish environment, previous support will act as a resistance. So you can see, previous resistance there kind of acting as support. Then we see previous resistance here at $14 acting as support. Now this previous resistance here, which acted as a support momentarily about a week ago around 1450, and then resistance here and now support here, maybe we're seeing it kind of establish some higher highs and make its way up above this $14.50 range and trying to push back up into that $15 to $18 range. It's a more bullish approach, but just these are the levels we're watching. Now, of course, if we take any short-term positions on top of our long-term positions, most likely we'll have a stop somewhere in the 2% and be going for a minimum of 10%. One of the tools that we oftentimes use is this stock profit calculator. So a good example here would be $14.63 entry. So that's where it would be. Let's say $14.63, and let's say that the current price, it's at 14, I don't know, 68. And our number of shares, let's just say that we get 500 shares. So essentially we'd be looking for a margin for profit of about 10%. So up in that $16 range, somewhere in here, be looking in that particular trade, a $750 profit, give or take. And we would, if we're going for 10%, we would manage risk around 2%. so around 14.34. That lines up pretty well. 14.34. Like we said, there's this previous resistance here, so we'd be looking for it to hold above that level if it's going to continue bullish. That's kind of the shorter term approach and what we might take potentially at market open if that opportunity presents itself tomorrow. We didn't trade today. We're just kind of watching the markets. Portfolio is up just about 1%, nothing crazy. Didn't do any big trades because there was some volatility and manipulation, like I said, pre-market. So we'll be watching though to see if these levels hold and things stabilize a tad bit after that CPI report. And we could potentially get into some continued uptrends. We do see somewhat of a trend developing here with APLD. Kind of see this level. I don't want to do too many drawings, but basically you got this trend that's kind of happening. So if I get rid of that level at 14.34, you can kind of see these levels. You kind of see this trend that's been happening basically since July, where it's kind of trying to trend. This is kind of what we're talking about here. So again, kind of holding a stop somewhere close, looking for that 10% to 15% margin up into that $15.80, $16 range for APLD. That's the bullish case. So again, short term, we'd want to have a stop there, pretty close, probably around that $14 support, somewhere in there. We're looking for that above 10% margin for profit, up above into that maybe $15 to $16 range. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you enjoyed. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. And again, we'll be watching to see if any opportunities present themselves. If you want to join us in our daily live trading sessions, it's private and separate from here on YouTube. It's a link you get every morning at market open in your email about 15 minutes before the market opens. You can click on through, see our entries, see our exits, see our live session with all the investors in Stockmate. You also get all the targets for the week. If you want the targets, for example, this week we got some earnings coming up, Rigetti after hours, a lot of different targets, and when they're reporting, along with surrounding yourself with other like-minded individuals. We've had some really good wins recently, from doubling of accounts to seeing about 24 members being in the millionaire club, so over 7 figures in their accounts, which is excellent. And we'll even send you a free t-shirt when you join Stockmate anywhere in the world. So if you want a free t-shirt, I'll shoot it over to you when you enroll in lifetime access. Again, it's that second link in the description. If you want to invest in AI, quantum stocks, you're looking at space tech stocks, definitely we're looking here at data centers. So some of these companies are what we mainly focus on here in the AI boom. So again, if you want to check it out, it's the second link below. Appreciate you all. Hopefully you have a good day. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.